Hello everyone, thanks for joining me on today's review. Let's just get the tough part of the review out of the way at the start, shall we? The CRJ-200 has to be the most hated airliner flying today. There are lots of videos and social media posts criticizing the CRJ-200 for being small, relatively cramped inside, featuring smaller windows that are also at waist level, which makes it difficult to look out of. And the airplane does not feature modern technology, such as in-flight entertainment screens or Wi-Fi or many of the other modern benefits that people are accustomed to with newer aircraft like Boeing 787, Airbus's A350, and others. Compared to those modern aircraft, the CRJ-200 can feel a bit dated and uncomfortable, but if you just bear with me for a couple of minutes, I'll make the case that in today's review of the CRJ-200 model from Gemini, that perhaps we should give this little putter jumper a little bit more respect than what it's gotten so far. To understand why the CRJ series deserves a place of honor on your airliner collection shelf, we should start at the beginning. People who aren't fortunate enough to live near a hub airport face a choice, at least before the CRJ came along. And it was to travel by car, train, or bus hours from where they were starting their trip from to a major airport to board a more conventional airplane, or to book passage on a turboprop. Now, those who consider the CRJ uncomfortable should ponder if they would prefer flying aboard something like this, where all of the luggage, no matter the size, has to be gate checked because there are no internal overhead bins at all, and there's no tray tables, and on many of these smaller turboprops, there isn't even a flight attendant or in-flight beverages or food or any of those kind of accoutrements. Essentially, it's one step removed from just hiring somebody at a local airport to fly you in a 4-seat Piper or Cessna private airplane. This was the experience that most passengers who, again, were not fortunate enough to be located near a major airport had to look forward to at the start and end of every air journey. That was until the CRJ-100 was built by Canadair Bombardier. The first flight of the CRJ-100 was in 1991, with the CRJ-100 entering service with initial operator Lufthansa in 1992. The CRJ-100 would later be developed into the longer range and slightly more powerful CRJ-200, the CRJ-700, which featured many substantial revisions to the wing, internal frame, fuselage, and long-range transport capability, and then further advancements were made to the CRJ-900 and 1000 variants. The CRJ-200 and later versions are still in service as of 2024, and under the stewardship of new owner Mitsubishi Aviation, will continue to be in service for quite some time to come. This particular CRJ-200 is in American Eagle colors, wearing registration number N as in November 230 Papa Sierra, or PS. Built initially in 2004, this particular aircraft flew for U.S. regional airline PSA until 2020, when it was retired after the airline market's contraction from the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's cover some of the impressions of the Gemini 200 CRJ series airplane. Special note, I did modify this model to feature detachable landing gear, so that way it presents a accurate, clean impression of the in-flight positioning. It really takes advantage of the stand and the way it's built to enable you to position the airplane as many ways as you can, right? So stay tuned to the end of the video to see how you can modify your own CRJ-200 Gemini model to look similar to this setup here. So the first pro to look at is the overall shape of the CRJ-200 model is very close to the actual airplane. The profile, as well as the shape of the wings and the control surfaces, all mirror what you would expect to see on the actual CRJ-200. The smaller detail, such as the engine, the labeling of the registration number, the American Eagle script, as well as the smaller details here, such as the PSA logo there, the One World meatball over here, and some of the cockpit labels and no step marks, as well as on the wings. All of that is done very nicely and is a detail set that you actually don't even see on 1/100 options like you see from Skymarks, among other manufacturers. So the small parts detail and the airframe labels are done very nicely, and again, the engine detail as well as the particular turbine blades of the General Electric turbofans, one on each side, and the proper finish on the aft engine exhaust nozzle there. All of that's done really well, and the flap modeling and the actuators done here on the wings really nicely. Pay close attention to the anti-collision and I'm not gonna say notification light, but we all know what that light's for anyways. That notification and anti-collision light there, as well as the antenna, both on two on the top and one on the bottom, all of that's done really nicely and is a mark of the detail that Gemini is bringing to this 1/200 scale model. Even the nose lights for the landing gear are done really well. I'm going to try to highlight it here. Hopefully the camera can capture it, but you can see there's the first one on the port side, and then the starboard one is also modeled very well. So again, small details are done really well for 1/200 scale, and it's a real credit to the brand in question here. So the cons, all things have their drawbacks, right? And this model is no different. The first con is the landing gear. The landing gear is not detachable out of the box, which means when you display the model, you're pretty much forced to look at it in a gear down configuration at all times. Given the adjustability of the stand, that's a bit of a letdown, and it's something that if you want to stay to the end of the video, you can see me put together a project showing how to change that if you are so inclined on your model. The other is the cockpit windows are slightly oversized, especially in profile. You have this bit of an eyebrow thing happening here, which I suspect is because maybe the translation of the CAD drawings didn't quite work out to what was actually produced. It's not a major deal, but it is something that I'm going to point out because this is a flaw that is shared pretty much in all of Gemini's CRJ models, from the 200 that you see here all the way up to the 7 and the 900 and 1000 that they have as well. So the bigger ones don't quite have as dramatic of an eyebrow cast, but being that this is the smallest CRJ in the series, it is going to feature that, and that is a detail that I am going to point out. Another flaw, which I'm going to call out here, is that there is no landing light on the wing root here, which you would expect to see on both sides. Given that the other details are modeled really well, including the cabin access door, which is labeled right there in front of the American Eagle symbol, it's a small letdown to see there. It's not enough for me to really dislike the model, but it is something that I would have liked to see them put on here, and hopefully Gemini will take that into account in future releases. If they're going to have the the red and the green anti-collision lights, they really should have the detail here for the landing lights and the wing roots here too. That would have been nice to see on here. So all things considered, as a model, I think it's worth adding to your collection, and I will wrap up by sharing one final con, which isn't necessarily the model's fault, but just the fact that the CRJ just doesn't get respect. It's the Rodney Dangerfield of small airliners, in that it is punished for being a cost-effective commuter airliner, and that isn't really a fair judgment when looking at what the CRJ brought to the world, in that it took people who otherwise would have had to fly small, noisy, uncomfortable turboprops and brought them an airliner that could connect them to the larger airports conveniently, safely, quickly, and all things considered, much more comfortably than the alternatives that the CRJ replaced. So I'm willing to look at this as something that belongs in any 1/200 or 1/400 airliner collector, and For those reasons, I believe this CRJ-200, flaws and all, deserves a place in your collection. So with that, we will wrap today's video. Thank you all for tuning in. And again, if you want to see some project video on how I modified the landing gear, feel free to stay to the end of the video. If you like what you see and you want me to produce more reviews, consider subscribing. That'll be how I know that I'm doing a good job, and further, you can benefit by being immediately notified once I upload new content to the channel. So once again, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you in the next one. Hello everyone. The goal of today's video is to show how to modify the Gemini 200 CRJ-200 landing gear on their die-cast models. For necessary materials, you'll need a set of needle nose tweezers, metal pliers, blue tack, temporary adhesive, super glue, and steady hands. So once everyone's brand of caffeine is digested from their system, let's start with step one. Take the needle nose pliers and pull out the main landing gear. Just take the needle nose and gently pull them off the model, and the main landing gear should come off of the die-cast assembly relatively easily. Once you have gently pulled those off, take them and set them aside. Next, take some blue tack and add it to the back of each main landing gear piece. So you'll have a setup that looks similar to this. Once you've done that, now we're going to work on the nose landing gear. This is the fun part of the project. So take a moment and drink your non-caffeinated beverage of choice and come right back to the video. So once you've had your beverage of choice, let's go back to the nose landing gear. Take the needle nose pliers and pull the nose gear out slowly but firmly. Next, take your metal pliers and carefully pull the aft nose landing gear door slash mud flap off, taking care to not scratch the bottom of the model in the process. This is attached relatively stiffly, at least on mine, so do take care to pull that off gently. Once you've done these steps, you should now have two parts for the nose landing gear. Apply some blue tack to the nose landing gear and reinstall onto the model. Make sure the nose gear is in an upright position and proportional to the model. As next up, you'll need to take the nose gear landing door you just removed and glue it onto the support strut right where it kinks outward. Once you've put the aft door on and it's lined up relative to the model, and it's also lined up side to side, back to front, make sure it's positioned in place and wait for the glue to dry. Once the glue dries in approximately a couple of hours, you are good to go. You now have a set of landing gear that you can take off and add to the model at your leisure. Enjoy your nice in-flight CRJ-200, folks. Thanks for watching.